Man lies in the street in handcuffs with a police officer with a knee on his neck. This is just wrong out of the gates. Now, how did he end up in handcuffs? Well, he'd been accused of paying for cigarettes with a fake $20 bill. He was unarmed and in cuffs. If 4 police officers can't handle this one without killing the guy, it's pretty difficult to argue that the police service is fit for purpose. People standing around were saying that their behavior was out of line. You don't need to put your knee on the neck of a guy in handcuffs. Guy on the ground says that he can't breathe, and some 7 minutes later loses consciousness. Other police officers stand around and support him. And when the people who are standing around try to tell the police officer that the guy whose neck he's been kneeling on for 10 minutes has been unconscious for the last 3, when you cut off the blood supply at the neck, about 30 seconds is enough. They're told not to interfere with police business. Now, bear in mind that the police are given powers under a strict understanding that they use these powers responsibly for the smooth running of society. If normal people acted like this, they would be charged with attempted murder there and then on the spot. For police officers to do this is a far more egregious crime. Not only did the guy end up dead, but what happens to the police officer who had actually knelt on this guy's neck till he died, or those who stood around and kept the people who were saying that the guy was unconscious away from the police officer kneeling on his neck? Were they charged with murder on the spot or accessory to murder? Nope. The institution of the police force in this case took a look at their actions and said, well, we're going to have to fire you, but it's not like you've committed a crime or anything. Now, at this point, it's not unreasonable for people to question their faith in the police force. Sure, you can go through the whole few bad eggs thing. Or he was under pressure, he had to shoot. It was a snap decision. But in this case, it wasn't. The guy was kneeling on this guy's neck for 10 bloody minutes while the guy was in handcuffs. And it was only days later that he was finally arrested for a non-first degree murder charge. Now, for everyone else, they would have been arrested on the spot. And it's just kind of difficult to say this isn't a systemic problem. Kill someone on the day shift, well, sorry, we're going to have to let you go, but we're not going to arrest you or charge you for anything. Now, reciprocation is the basis of almost all morality. You've just got to ask yourself, how would you feel if you had to walk a mile in someone else's shoes? Yeah, the whole Floyd thing was so utterly outrageous. To asking these folks afterwards to have faith in society, to have faith in the police afterwards is simply not realistic. It's just so utterly outrageous. And what makes it utterly indefensible was the initial reaction of the police force, which was just to fire them. You see, deep down in our brains, we process all of this sort of stuff statistically in some shape or form, even if it's at merely a subconscious level. That for every truly outrageous incident, there are probably 10 things that are out of order, and for every 10 things that are out of order, there are 100 that could have been done better. The mere existence of one incident like this just throws the whole bloody curve. In all likelihood, for every incident like this that's caught on video, there are probably 10 that are not. Christ, the police officer was basically choking a captive man to death in the middle of the street, and it didn't even faze his 3 co-workers. It really is pushing the bounds of credulity to say, it was a one-off incident, especially seeing as the only sanction that they got was to be fired. And you just know, without a shadow of a doubt, that if the people who had been saying that, look, you're kneeling on this guy's neck and he's been unconscious for 3 minutes, if they had actually interfered, let's be real, what do you reckon? Shot? Arrested and charged for obstructing a police officer or interfering with a police officer in the line of duty. Hell, do you think that someone who is brazen enough to kill a handcuffed man in the middle of the street would balk at these minor abuses of power, just for the power rush of being able to dominate these people? Look, simple human empathy means that it really is difficult to condemn any reaction to this sort of thing. Even if it is riots and looting. Seriously, just play the role reversal game for a second here. What are you supposed to do? Protest politely and hope things change? Well, the mere fact that we got to where we are, with current events and all that sort of thing, means that this really hasn't been historically an effective strategy. As Kennedy once said, those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. Which brings us on to the practical side of things. There isn't really any exit strategy visible here. Burning stuff and looting, even if it's a minority, might make some feel better, raging against the system and all that sort of thing. And sure, intensity of protests can change public opinion, but it's hardly a roadmap to a solution. The only thing that would have maybe counted here is if the police officers had been immediately arrested and stuck up on harsh charges for the outrageous abuses of their office. This would have at least been a gesture that the problem in the police force wasn't a systemic problem, and that the police force would take abuses of power like that seriously. Sadly, that's just not what happened. The only real way back from here to restore faith in the system would be to enact some new legislation, some new legal instrument or something that ensured harsh penalties for police who abuse their positions like that. You can't look at this and say that people do not have legitimate grievances. And it is the duty of a decent society to address those legitimate grievances. This really isn't what's currently playing out, though, with Donald Trump promising to dominate the people protesting about the police officers asphyxiating a handcuffed man in the middle of the street. And as much as protesting, or hell, even rioting and looting are not exit strategies, claiming as the leader that you're going to dominate people while you're sending riot police against peaceful protesters simply so you can have a photo op in front of a church. That is not leadership. That is not an exit strategy. That is just fucked up beyond all recognition.